Hey everybody, it's Bricky here. Some of you may have remembered I did a bunch of faction focuses on my second channel way back when for Warhammer content. Those of you who didn't, it was just me running through a lot of the changes to all the kinds of stuff, and I thought, why do the major balanced data slate today on the other channel when I could literally do it on Dicecheck, which is kind of the whole point of Dicecheck. It's not just battle reports, it's also discussion and talking about this kind of stuff. So we're going to be going through the new balanced data slate that came out today, September 7th. Just the data slate part, not the points. I'm actually going to have Garrett and Demeki on to talk about their portions of the points when that happens. But until then, we're going to be talking about this whole thing while we get the opportunity to. It is fall, so I'm going to hawk my merch a tiny little bit. If you're a guard fan, you're especially a Kriegsman, he's just doing a little siege. It's just a little siege. It's just a little siege. It's all it is. It's in shirt and hoodie form. I'll put it in the description of the video. Don't worry about it. Okay, it's all go. Don't worry about it. Anyway, look at this. It is the balance data slate. It is here after a tumultuous time, I'd say, in the world of Warhammer. Eldar have ran rampant, taking away everybody that ever had a pulse. Good old custodians have completely just outclassed and hard countered melee armies. And Genestealer cults were a lot of things. Meanwhile, Votann and Death Guard and Admech sat at the far bottom with bad lives. So this data slate is going to make adjustments to a lot of things. A lot more than I expected. And I am going to open it up by saying that this video is most likely going to be titled Credit Where Credit is Due. Credit where credit is due. I'm not gonna lie, Games Workshop, you have done a admirable job. Normally, they were very nervous about making large changes to the game. They wanted to touch very little. And I think that actually ended up causing a lot of problems in 9th edition. But this is a large, almost all-encompassing data slate that while I do think could have come a little quicker, is a lot. It's quite decent. And there are not many things in this game that they chose is like off limits. You know, most things have gotten a change, and that's just like before it was like, okay, points only and maybe like the cost of a stratagem. Now it's wording of stratagems and core rules. There's a lot more. So I'm very happy with that. So let's start with arguably the largest change of this entire data slate outside of points. Let's talk about devastating wounds. Devastating wounds have been reworked to the point where they no longer inflict mortals, but instead make it so you cannot take a saving throw of any kind, including invulns. Also, if I sound a little bit under the weather, I am a little sick. I came back from PAX and I've got the con crud. So sorry about that. As you said, reads here, each time that attack is made with that weapon, if that attack scores a critical wound, no saving throw of any kind can be made, including invulnerable saving throws. Such attacks are only allocated to models after all other attacks made by the attacking unit have been allocated and resolved. So instead of doing mortals in addition, this is simply just you cannot take a throw against this, and make it clear this is only after all attacks have been done. So if you give them 5 wounds and 3 dev wounds, then they take all 5 saves and then allocate their dev wounds, which is how it was before, but it has a couple consequences that are rather interesting, particularly the fact that you can lose some damage if you say brought them down to 1 wound with a 3 damage weapon, and then the 3 damage doesn't spill anymore like mortals, it just goes away. So this has a couple unintended consequences. But before we get into that, I just want to say very good change, huge change, fantastic, massive adjustment to the game as a whole, massive adjustment to a lot of the problem units in the game as a whole. The Wraith Knight is the first one that comes to mind for basically everybody. But outside the Wraith Knight, I was thinking about CSM. So I was thinking the Forge Fiend. Possessed weren't like the craziest, but the possessed as well, and then all other kinds of crazy dev wound type things. Some like warp spiders weren't really touched too much, but a few others like what's like the Wraith Guard gun that does mortals that has it's like D6 mortals, I think, something like that. That one also, that one too. Couple others. There are a couple unintended consequences of this. For starters, it does mean that if you had a feel no pain against mortal wounds, you are now more susceptible to dev wounds in general. Custodians, talking about you guys. You guys had a 4-up feel no pain against mortals, and now the dev wounds are no longer mortal wounds. You just take it, which hurts. But it also means that if you were, say, like I mentioned earlier, brought down to 1 wound, and then you took 3 damage from a dev wound, well, it just kills your guy and doesn't spill on over anymore. So that's quite nice. Also, a little bit less rolling in general to be done with. Of course, you still get your saves against mortal wounds outside of this. I think of grenades, tank shock, psychic damage, like powers like that. It's like Grey Knight Librarians, Vortex of Doom. There's also things like charge, like on the charge, roll a dice on a 6, you do D3 plus 3 mortals, like things like that, right? You can still get on those. But it does make you a little bit less more susceptible to dev wound damage. That being said, overall, I think this is a fantastic change. It's not my perfect change. If I had to, I would have created, I think I may have mentioned this earlier, I would have created 2 different rules. I would have done overwhelming force and devastating wounds. Overwhelming force would have been this new dev wound because it just goes right through. And then devastating wounds would have been splash mortals. Because I do think splash mortals should exist for some things. I think of like Death Guard plague flails or the Dark Angel flails. Like I think that there should be an overall idea to have splash mortals. Like I think it's fine as a mechanic that can be utilized. But for the most part, that's like a tiny nitpick, the tiniest nitpick. This is a way better and smarter just quick fix. It's like quick fix and a strong quick fix. I think it's a huge help and will genuinely change up a lot of the units that are good and you want to take. Moving on from there, stratagems. So this is actually a change I didn't really see coming at all. It says rules that modify the CP cost of a stratagem. Callous Assassin, we also call it a vect, if you've ever heard that term before. It's like when you use a stratagem, increase it by 1. When you target a particular unit, can only do so for a stratagem that targets multiple units if every unit you target has the same ability to modify the CP of that stratagem. It's a lot. Let me try to make this a little bit more clear. Rules that modify the CP cost of a stratagem, but that do not specify the name of the stratagem, can only be used to affect the CP cost of battle tactics stratagems. This does not apply to the Wraith Cast Colossus, Striding Colossus, or Towering Wraith Construct abilities. This is why examples are lovely, because examples are very helpful to go with this. A Captain's Rights of Battle ability enables that model to be targeted by a stratagem for 0 CP. This ability does not specifically name a stratagem, and so it can only be used to use a battle tactics stratagem for 0 CP. Azurmin's Tactical Acumen ability, however, enables you to target this model's unit with a Fire Overwatch stratagem for 0 CP. As the name of the stratagem is specified, that ability can be used even though Fire Overwatch is a strategic ploy stratagem. Example 2, Callous Assassin's Reign of Confusion ability, when used, increase the cost of points GP by 1. This ability does not specifically name a stratagem, and so it can only be used on a battle tactic stratagem. Rules that allow you to use a stratagem even if another unit has been targeted by that stratagem this phase or turn, does not specify the name, can only be used for battle tactic stratagems. So, it's a lot of words, but basically here's how it goes. If your thing says get free strat, you can use a battle tactic one. If your thing says increase strat by 1, it can only be done on a battle tactic stratagem. If your thing says use Overwatch for free, heroic intervention for free, those are other situations. Basically, if you're using any kind of free strat, increase strat, etc. ability, and it does not specifically say that type of stratagem, it must be a battle tactic stratagem. Now, unfortunately, our great friends at Wahapedia have not created a 10th edition updated website yet, which is, while unfortunate, does mean I will be opening up the app real quick to look at stratagems real fast, because this is important, and to specify all these types of things. So, battle tactic stratagems here specifically for the wide variety, there's only 3. The core rules, there's only 3. It's command reroll, your classic CP reroll, counteroffensive, which is also known as the interrupt, and epic challenge, which is character versus character, get precision blows. Everything else is either an epic deed or a strategic ploy. So if you want to increase the cost of an opponent using stratagems, you can do it on those 3: interrupt, epic challenge, and command point reroll. I would honestly say command point reroll is the one you would use it on most of the time, unless you find like a hardcore melee army that really wants to use counteroffensive. But as said, the CP cost brought down to 0 means you can use a free stratagem, 0 CP, for those 3 as well: CP reroll, counteroffensive, epic challenge. To note, you cannot use the free strat for fire overwatch, rapid ingress, tank shot, grenade, insane bravery, smokescreen, go to ground, and heroic intervention. Mostly the ones there to note is fire overwatch. So that's an important thing to note. Now, granted, certain armies, of course, have battle tactic stratagems in their stratagems, their attachment rules. So, for example, if I pulled out my Sisters of Battle, I literally have none. I have 0. That's a little bit awkward. Let's go with Space Marines instead. They're a little bit more obvious. All right, stratagems. You only have 2. And those are Storm of Fire, which is the gets ignore cover and improve AP by 1 in the Devastator Doctrine, and Adaptive Strategy, which is the select one of the other doctrines and then get it. So those are the only 2 you get for free. So Armor of Contempt is a no. Only in Death Does Duty End is a no. Just those ones. So you're really going to need to go through, if you're an army that has battle tactic for free strats. Sisters don't, so I don't even know why I looked at Sisters. I don't have free strats. But if you're like Necrons, for example. Necrons. Let's find out if your regen one is a battle tactic stratagem. It's not. It's a strategic ploy stratagem. Ooh, that's rough. You guys get Protocol the Conquering Tyrant, which is the reroll wound roll, and Sudden Storm. These are both fine, but they're not Undying Legions. So that's a big thing to note. It also means that taking a Vect of some sort, like the Calidus Assassin, or even something like Kairos, is not very, not like a thing you're going to be doing too much of. It's lost its power. We'll go with that. It does depend on what's meta, though. If like Phantasm was a battle tactic stratagem, then, who knows? But we'll see. Anyway, moving on. Fire Overwatch has changed. There are 2 very specific changes that are going on with it. 1, it has to be visible. 2, you cannot use a Titanic unit with this stratagem, which is very unfortunate because I was planning on using with a Baneblade, which is obviously not the big problem, but you just can't use it for that. So basically, it is no indirect fire. No, can't do that. And also, no Wraith Knight. This, in its own right, is a fine nerf. It's good, but it's not the craziest thing. I will say that Knights got hit pretty hard by that. No Overwatch on a Knight unit is pretty rough. I kind of would have preferred if instead of just saying no, you instead said +1 CP, cost 2 CP instead of 1. Would have preferred that as a middle ground, because this change to Overwatch is fine, but it's really the modifying a CP cost that I think also changes Overwatch by not making it free for a couple of units. I think that's actually a pretty important one, which is unfortunate because, making a free Overwatch is a whole different world. Making it 2 CP, I think would have been fine if it's on Titanic units, but I feel kind of bad for knights more than anyone. All right. Insane Bravery also got changed. They made this pretty good. It's before you take a battle shock test, and it's once per game. I like that a lot. It's not perfect for what I would have liked battle shock to be changed to. I would have much rather preferred. Many people have offered this idea. It's once you are battle shocked, you must keep taking battle shock tests in your command phase until you're no longer battle shocked. I like that reasoning a lot. I think it's good because then you can hit someone with it. And if they do fail, they have to really work their way out of it. You got to dig yourself out of a rut. But this is still a pretty solid nerf. And I'd say is, it makes battle shock better. So it's worth it to an extent. Good for Chaos Knights too, I imagine. Ruins. They're just a quick change to Ruins. It says towering models that are within this terrain feature can also see out of it normally. This is a change to towering. I'm not going to lie. I have a hard time understanding how changes to towering normally work. Someone else might be able to explain this better than me. My mind says it goes back to the old way, but it might not. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming it's going back to the 9th edition ways, but it's a little hard to understand. And I'm a little sick, as I mentioned, and my brain is going down. It's breaking down a little bit. So we're just going to skip that one for a little bit. I'm sure it's important, but I can't. Faction rules. All right. This is a big one. And by big, I mean there are a ton of faction changes here, and I'd say they're pretty good. Okay, so good old Adeptus Custodes, Unwavering Sentinel Stratagem is changed to an Epic Deed one. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Bricky, is that the fight first one? And also, Bricky, could that perchance have been a battle tactic stratagem prior? And you know what? You're probably right on both of those situations. Right now, Unwavering Sentinels is now an Epic Deed, and it is the fight's first one indeed. So what this does is that it does not allow you to get it for free if it used to be a battle tactic stratagem, which I'm assuming it used to be. I would assume at least. A couple other things. Custodian Guard got changed from 4 to 5. Same thing with Wardens, and same thing it's 2 to 3 for the Praetors. I am going to assume. Also interesting how interesting how Wardens are 4 too. It's 4 to 5 is the change. Basically, this is stopping those gigantic bricks, those enormous bricks of Custodians, which, combined with fights first, made them basically kill anything they touched. You had a 10-man brick of Custodians with Trajan. You could walk up like Shalaxi and they would still murder it. I think. Shalaxi's pretty tough, but you get the point I'm trying to say. Just some changes to the overall size of the units to make them less of a gigantic brick, which I gotta be honest, I don't really think Custodians should have really been played as big bricks. That's not really their shtick. They're much more like individual elite groups, so I'm kind of happy with that. Mechanicus, your Rangers and Vanguard are no longer just bad guardsmen. They now have a 4-up save and a 5-up invul. Love to see it. This also came with points drops, by the way, which is important to note. That's just, it's important to note that they had that as well, but great changes to the Skitarii Vanguard. Your base troops are better. Rangers and Vanguard. The Skitarii. Your base troops are better. Eldari, Phantasm. 1 Eldar infantry unit from your army. Now, I'm on the fence. I wasn't sure if Phantasm was one of those types of stratagems that would just benefit from being 2 CP instead of 1 CP, or make other restrictions. I'm okay with it being infantry unit because the biggest offenders I had for Phantasm were the Avatar of Cain, the Incarn, and also any and all vehicles like fire prisms looking out, firing at you, and then bobbing back into cover. You could still find some nasty things to go with Phantasm with infantry, like Warp Spiders and Wraith Guard, I think is the names. But for the most part, I'm tentatively curious on how this is going to change. The Wraith Knight's been I shouldn't say gutted, but the Wraith Knight's been massively nerfed from its previous state, with now that it can't fire Overwatch and its dev wounds don't splash. So there's a big deal there, but it also can't use Phantasm. So we'll see. Eldar had some point changes that were pretty strong, but some people don't quite think it's going to be enough. I think I need to see more of them in action to truly know. Aegis the Imperium, Exaction Squad, way too cheap. Way too cheap. Way too easy. Now you have to have a squad of 10. No more squads of 5. You don't get a squad of 5 for 35 points. You need a squad of 10. So they force you to take 10 of them, which, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Death Guard. Okay. Have a sip of my lemonade. It's raspberry lemon. It's white. Death Guard. Okay. So, Death Guard is fascinating. I want to make a couple of things to note first. First things first, this is a change to the spread the sickness rule. This is not a change to Nurgle's Gift. Nurgle's Gift is the army-wide rule, which is still the -1 toughness, which I still think is a bit weak. And I don't know what other Death Guard detachments will give them. I'm assuming that Death Guard aren't going to get a book for a while, and because of that, this is just going to be a really good buff for the Nurgle's Gift rule, and then maybe when the book comes out, things will change again. We'll find out. So, Nurgle's Gift, this is add the following. So you still get sticky objectives, army-wide. You can now pick one of these 3 in the declare battle formations step. And whichever one of these 3 you pick, you get it to the end of the battle. And these are very good. Worsen the ballistic and weapon skill characteristics of enemy models by 1. Worsen their armor save by 1. Or worsen their leadership and OC by 1. And there's a change parenthesis at the end of the current rule, so enemies within cage range of it will have their characteristics modified. Okay. So this is really good, really good, and is probably making Death Guard Hellbrute stonks go through the roof because they fire at you and you start spreading the sickness. Hellbrute stonks are going through the roof. I like it a little bit because, you know, Death Guard are all about killing anything and everything because just Nurgle eats away at everything. So even though the minus to toughness of Nurgle's Gift and their lethal hits thing don't really mix, I do kind of like the idea of instead of having one insane synergy, they just have like 15 debuffs. Lethal hits on all their guns, -1 toughness, -1 save this time, or -1 OC, like just all kinds of weird debuffs going around. I kind of like that as a Nurgle idea. I don't know if that's what they want to make it, but it's a thought. I like the fact that you can pick which one before you actually start the game with the enemy, and then you can really adjust it to what you need it to be. You know, if they're going for tons of horde units that are, I don't know, like just clog objectives, for example, then good old Scabrous Soul Rot of the -1 OC and objectives, great look right there. If you're finding someone who just decided to go full tank, just like 30 Deathwing Terminators, good old Rattle Joint Ague, -1 save is huge. And Skull Squirm is a bit of a tough one to determine. I guess it'd be really good with Hellbrutes because you can fire it at enemies and then spread a -1 ballistic skill across the board. But I like him a lot for maybe like World Eaters, glass cannon type things, maybe Drukhari and stuff. Like if they get up close to you and they need to hit you in melee just to really blunt their effects to the point where you don't really care that they have a 3-up or a 4-up save. That's my guess. I think you'll be using Rattle Joint the most. -1 save is really, really good. But I think they all have a use, you know, for the most part. Along with the point changes, which there are many, Death Guard, I think, are looking pretty nasty. No pun intended. They had a lot of point changes. Will they become good? But it's something. It's on the right path. Death Watch got a whole bunch of changes to their stratagems, basically making it only for bolt weapons across the board. And here are the bolt weapons you can do it for. That's just fine. It's fine. I don't know much about Death Guard, but not Death Guard, Death Watch, but you know, it's bolt weapons. So Special issue ammunition makes sense. And the last but not least, we have the other last page here. Genestealer cults. So your ambush got nerfed. Basically, if something is destroyed, it's on a 5-up now, not a 4-up. And you add 1 to the result of its battle line, not like 3. And 1 to the result if it's the first or second battle round. So I actually like that a lot. So if you lose a battle line unit at battle round 1 or 2, you get it on a 3-up. Pretty solid. Like, it's still a pretty good chance. If not that, it's on a 5-up. Or if it's a battle line, it's a 4-up for the most part. And battle rounds 3 and onwards. I actually like this. It stops alpha strikes from hurting you as badly. It keeps the battle line as your main regeneration unit, but it doesn't make it as, like, you shouldn't be relying on your aberrants coming back as often. You know, it's still the respawning army, but it's the respawning army in a totally different method. And you could argue that there is a bit of an RNG chance here. You might just roll a bunch of 1s and 2s now on your army rule, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that for the most part. I don't really mind it. GSC, like, if Eldar got hard nerf, GSC would have been the next top S tier army. And I think this is a pretty solid way to, you know, just like, okay, they're infinite respawning. Just make it a little harder. Is it going to be enough? You might roll great. You might roll poorly. Who knows? But I guess it all depends on how seeded this world is with Genestealer cult infection. Also, Atlan Jackals now need to be set up wholly within 9 inches of a battlefield edge. I don't know what it was before, but it's a change to 9. It's a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's to stop them from allowing you to throw bombs. I'm not quite sure. Or maybe it was 6 inches before. Now it's a little bit more. Or maybe it was 12. I don't know. It's a change. I would have checked the old rules, but the app is already updated. So holy hell. So Great Knights, Halo and Soulfire changed the strategic ploy, assuming that this was because of it was a battle tactic stratagem before, which would make it free. Halo and Soulfire, I believe, is when you arrive and you arrive within 3 inches, I think, or is it the lone op one? Grey Knights, Index, Teleport, Strike Force, Stratagems, Halo and Soulfire. Oh, okay, it's the lone op one, right? Because it's the lone op one. They have changed. They didn't change. GW didn't change the color in the app. It's still blue, by the way. It is now strategic ploy 1 in STEM. Wait, why are these colored the way they are? They're all colored wrong. Oh, it needs to be red, I think. But wait, why is Radiant Strike green, but it also says battle tactic? But the Death from the Warp is blue, but it says battle tactic. The Prognosticated Arrival is blue, but it has Epic Deed. What's happening? I don't understand. It's fine. Point being is you can't do the no shooting you outside of 12 inches for free anymore. None of the 0 CP stuff. So that's cool. Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights got some hits. Maybe a bit more than I expected. It says some Questoris models have a bondsman ability. In your command phase, 1 or more models from your army with a bondsman ability can use that ability. For each one that does, select 1 friendly armiger within 12. You can also select one that's already into the command phase. The armiger model you selected is affected by that bondsman's ability. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it affected before both the armiger and the knight. Now it is and the big knight. Now it is just the armiger that gets the buff. I could be wrong on that one. I'm pretty positive that is how it was. So basically, the big knight's bondsmans are just giving the armiger stuff, which, in fairness, is kind of fluffy because you normally run them between, little armiger and big knight kind of go in pairs. But at the same time, you would also assume that it would get the benefits to both. So it's a bit of a strange change. I don't know if that was really the thing that was making knights crazy. Thunderstomp has been changed to an Epic Deed stratagem, and then Trophy Claim and Valiant Last Stand have both been changed to 2 CP. Little I don't know. I like knights were pretty nasty and very, very good for a while, but combined with whatever towering change happened up there, and combined with the no Overwatch as a Titanic units anymore, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but maybe it feels a little, maybe a bit of an overstep. I need to double check the knight points. I'm not a knight player, so my knowledge on knights is a bit off, but it's just a thought process that I have, and so I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna cover Space Marines before we do Votann real fast. Desolation squads can only go to 5. No more 10. So no more 30 Desolation Marines. If you bought 30 Desolation Marines, I am not sorry. You are part of the problem. Deal with it. If you bought 30 Deso Marines, you knew what you were getting into. You knew the problem that you were about to cause. You did cause the problem, and now you pay for it, literally. So, sorry, don't care. Anyway, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Anyway, moving on from that, Leagues of Votann. So, Votann, when we get to points, have been dropped in points substantially across the board. I don't think a single Votann unit did not get a points drop. It's that much. But as we talked, the biggest issue we had with Votann is that you could not hand out judgment tokens constantly enough. You needed to hand out more tokens. Now, I think I would have preferred a change to Eye of the Ancestors to allow you to hand out more tokens just naturally. They changed the detachment rule instead, which I think that much like Death Guard, there's a great chance that you are just not going to get a codex for a while. So they made your detachment rule crazy in order to make up for that. And we'll probably bring it back down when your codex comes out. But remember how you could pick one enemy unit and give it 2 tokens and get CP if you kill it? Well, now you get to pick 4 enemy units. Not 1, 4. 4 enemy units gets to start the battle with 2 judgment tokens. 4. And it says if at the start of any of your command phases, any of those units have been destroyed, you gain a number of CP depending on how early in the battle round you destroyed it, as shown below. You can only gain CP in this way once per battle, and CP gained in this way are an exception to the core rules that limit the maximum number of CP you can gain per battle round to 1. So I would like to make an interesting point here. It reads as 2 ways, either if you kill any of those units or if you kill the first one and then you're done. I'm going to assume it's any, as in one of the 4, and then you're done with it. Because if I'm not mistaken, you get like 3 CP if you do it turn 1, or some insanity number. And if you just got a really good start and you got 2 of them, and then you got 6 CP, I don't know about that. That seems a little bit insane. So I'm going to assume it is the first time and just the 1. That's my assumption. 4 units is a lot. It's a lot. And you get to pick them from the opponent's army, so you can just pick ones that are in reserves too. And you don't need to be worried if they hold them back for a while as much, because you can pick 4 now. Is it enough to make Votann good? I don't know. Combined with the volume of points drops they got, it might. The thing that matters the most is that it's 4. And so that really crushes certain armies like knights. It's like, oh, you got 3 big knights or something, like boop, 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 done. +1 to hit and wound for my whole army. If you are fighting, let's say, CSM, and they want to run like 2 bricks of Terminators, boop, boop, pretty good. You want to run, enemies bring an Angron or something. You got maybe Admech is spamming triple squad of big breachers. It's really good, I'd say. Is it good enough? I don't know. The points drops were pretty big, but I don't know. It's a step in the right direction, no doubt. It's certainly a buff. Is it enough? Unsure, but it is a buff. And that's really it for this. Biggest changes by far are dev wounds. Second biggest change is probably Stratagem modification. Those two are huge, huge changes. Fire Overwatch is a nice change. Insane Bravery is a nice change. I will say that there are some pittances handed out here and there. Mechanicus being one of them. Age of the Imperium, just kind of fixing up the exaction squad. And you know, Genestealer Cult's pretty sizable nerf. Unsure about Knights, but good God, Votann and Death Guard. Those are some buffs. Will it be enough to buff the small, and will it be enough to nerf the top? I don't know. That being said, Games Workshop, credit where credit's due. For the longest time, they were very tunnel vision. They did not bring up underperforming things as well as they could. They did not bring down overperforming things as well as they could. They would choose one or the other, and that was about it. But they have made major changes across the board to all kinds of things. And they're all correct, I'd say, or they're all good enough. For the most part, top went down and bottom went up. Now, how much did they go? And did top kind of just like do this, like a weird shimmy? I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, every single change here, top is down, bottom is up. Is top down enough? I don't know. Is bottom up enough? I don't know. We need to play more in order to determine it. But it is still in the right direction. So credit where credit is due. And yeah, I'll talk to you all soon if you want to. When I have Garrett and Demeki on to talk about their points changes and some of their stuff. I'm sure a few of them, particularly Demeki, is going to be really happy about the Death Guard rule. And yeah, if you want to pick up a merchandise, check out the description real fast. And other than that, if you like this stuff and if you want to see more of this, like if you like these kinds of discussion videos, please let us know, because, you know, battle reports are a lot of work and it would be nice to have a bit more variety in content, but let us know if you like this kind of variety in content, because we could always choose other kinds of variety. Thank you for watching. Yeah, throw a sub, throw a like, enjoy Dicecheck. We'll see you around.